yeah, check that out. Really starting to line up there. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We are at the post office getting rid of some recent bait sales. So it's like last week's swim baits going out, so great feeling whenever I finally get them out the door, and then there aren't swim baits curing all over my kitchen, aggravating my wife. So always a good day when baits leave the house. But yeah, we're gonna drop these off. So just a quick thank you to everyone who inquires about buying some stuff for me, and everyone who has given me some business. So thank you guys. But yeah, here we are, another video. We're gonna drop these off at the post office, then we'll meet you back in the fish cave and we'll find out what we're doing today. Gotta really hand it to that Brad Hardy guy for designing this dead on shirt. He really thinks he's special. All right, today we are challenging our hand pouring skills. Now, I know that a lot of these, you know, really kind of in-depth, complicated hand pour videos are not y'all's favorite. They don't score high on the analytics chart. But every once in a while, I want to show y'all, you know, a video where I'm really pushing my envelope, at least, from just a soft plastic hand pouring perspective. You know, now other things, like if I branch out to wood or get on the airbrush, you know, obviously those are not my strong areas. So anytime I do any of those sort of things, I'm, you know, pushing myself. But in terms of the soft plastic world, which, you know, I'm kind of known for doing mostly, you know, this is an example of me really trying to put my hard-earned practice skills to the test. So I recently saw a crankbait painted by a custom crankbait painter, and they immediately caught my eye as not only amazing, but also as potentially pourable. Dark Corner Custom Crankbaits. So we're going to take a look at these real quick on his page. Now, I don't know this person. They might not want me doing this. I have no idea, but you know, either way, I'm going to give them a shout out and credit for this pattern, and we're going to see if we can duplicate it in plastic. There it is right there. Again, his Instagram is Dark Corner _ Custom _ Crankbaits, and just look at this feast right here. So let's break it down. Obviously, he threw an orange belly on there, which is one of my favorite things to do when doing the hand pour bluegill patterns. We have sort of this really red Junebug purple pattern as sort of the body. We have the dark black vertical striping. And then we have this beautiful kind of green chartreuse head, right? Blended into, you know, black on the top of the head. So this is a pattern that I think is actually quite pourable. You can see I screenshotted it again. And you know, there's several ways that you could go about doing a pattern like that. You know, obviously you could capsule your molds and, you know, dust everything or brush everything with paint by hand inside the mold. You could do like this gentleman did and just airbrush it. But, you know, we're going to see if we can pour it. So just looking at this color here, we kind of have that kind of bright chartreuse green and black head. So I'm thinking that's the kind of eyeball palette that I want. And this is my Jetson Lure Eyes folder. I've been collecting them for a long time. I've spent every dollar that I have on these, and he makes this eye right here, Mahi Mahi, which has all of that green, chartreuse, and black goodness in there. So I'm thinking that right there will really match these. All right, we're gonna do it standing up instead of sitting down. I'm a little bit more comfortable doing it that way. I just have to try to watch what I'm doing here and make sure that it's on camera. Yeah, one layer at a time, folks. Just kind of let it run down. And so that's kind of what we start with right there. And of course, we want to do it again and try to space them evenly and also pour them evenly. And so what I mean by that is we want these to kind of be the same width. Sometimes I'll start with a bigger kind of stripe up here and then taper them smaller as I work back on the mold. This particular example, they pretty much all look like they're the same width, You know, the only difference just being the length as the mold generally tapers, or naturally tapers. So again, this is all just kind of completely freehand by eyesight, and really trying to focus on spacing. Even spacing, and then doing that every single mold, right? You know, we have to do this 12 times because there's 6 molds. You know, and my thing is, why even go to the trouble to mix up all this crap to only make one or two baits at a time? You know, weigh out every mold you have and send it. Is the way that I like to look at it. And then, you know, the bottom kind of this head here is going to be that green chartreuse, but the top was black. So what I like to do is kind of fill in all around that eyeball and into the head section with black, right? Just kind of manipulate that mold with that black kind of flow where it will. And so you can see now basically the top half of the head is black, which allows us room to fill in the bottom with something else. So that is our first layer down, and of course we have to do that 11 more times. So we're about halfway done, and you see that right there? That's uneven. The spacing, bad. That's garbage. Got to redo that. All right, there it is. We are done. Maybe took about 15 minutes, but all of the black layering is done, all 12 mold halves. And now we're going to move on to the next color. We're going to lay down the purple. So here comes the purple. We're actually going to show you the color build on that, and just how at least I would go about trying to match it. Okie doke, so what we're using today is Dead on Plastic's Craw Tube Blend. That's what I like to use in larger swim baits. And for these skin layers, that does not change. So that's what we're going for. That shade of purple right there. Which this shade of purple is almost exactly like that to a T. In fact, it might be. We might not have to change any of this. But we're at least just gonna look first. Yeah, we might darken that up just a little bit. But as you can see, that's really good. But I do think it needs to be purpled up a little more. And for that, we're just gonna use a few drops of black grape. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Didn't mean for that third one. May have just wrecked the whole thing. Okay, it did not. Good, 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 good. So, here's what we have. What we're going to do is we're going to do the old drizzle test, where we're just going to kind of let some drizzle out onto the mold. That way we can really get a good comparison of the hue, right? Yeah. That's getting there. It actually just needs to be, I think, a little bit more saturated. We cannot forget the small silver flake. Again, this is just for like a little bit of effect. So we don't want to just load it up. Just a smidge, really. It's our favorite measurement here, is the smidge, the almighty smidge. Yeah, just enough to give it a little bit of that. And then we are actually going to also add a little bit of medium black flake. So the same thing. Just enough to give it some texture. If we look real close in our example, you can see this sort of like black scale inlay, some of that. We can't really pour that, but what we can do is try to substitute for it with some small black flake. All right, so now we're going to transition to the purple color, right? And what I want to do is kind of mimic these stripes vertically. And to me, that just makes it easier to kind of fill in the gaps while allowing space for that orange and chartreuse that we still need to put in later. So there's, you know, multiple steps, multiple layers to these colors, but essentially we're going to mirror this, and we're just going to fill it in sort of here in between those two, okay? And just let it run down. Just like that, okay? So that's essentially what I'm doing. Now you could pour it across. I like to do it this way. A lot of the time, at least. So, again, we're just kind of filling in that gap, letting that run down. All right, we'll do it to this one too. I'm trying to I have to hold this perfectly flat, which makes it look like it's angled away, but I have to do that in order to manipulate the plastic. Okay, get it started there. Kind of let it run down, and then sort of fill back up. So that's sort of kinda what we're doing. And then what I like to do a lot is take one little thin strip of it, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Woo, yep, that's warm. Still gooey. I like to take one little thin strip of it a lot of times and just go right up front. Let it go all the way down. Just one little tiny thin strip. So then we can fill in that orange belly in here, and then the chartreuse in the head. So that's kind of what I'm thinking we're gonna do. So I'll show you one more, kind of at normal speed, as I would try to pour it, as I would try to pour it off camera. So again, just kind of do that, boom, let it go down, next. You know, try to really get them done. Okay, looking good there. All right, looking good, just like that. Doesn't really need to take any more time than that. You kind of get into a rhythm, you get into a flow, and you can do something like that pretty quickly. So they are already starting to take shape. All right, time for a little orange, and the color that we're gonna use for that is orange. Brilliant, I know. Absolutely brilliant stuff here on World's Worst Fishing. Yeah, looking good. I might cut it with some yellow just to dampen the orangeness, because if I look at that hue right there, yeah, and then I look at this, that's got a little bit more yellow in it, and in fact he probably faded from yellow to orange as you kind of go down. It looks a little golden in there and then orange. So we could try to do that. It'd be a real tough squeeze. I think what I'm gonna do is just blend the two and maybe throw a drop or two of yellow in that. All right, so we have those 2 drops of yellow sitting there on top. Yeah, kind of mix those in. You know, again, we're gonna add some of this small silver flake. And, gotta clean the spoon off here. Yeah, so some small silver flake again, just for it to have that little bit of texture. And then same with the black flake. You know, and the thing about it is, you know, you see a pattern that you really like, and you do your best to match it. You know, at the end of the day, you know, hand pouring versus painting, it's such 2 different things, such different mediums. You know, all you can really do is try to make the soft plastic counterpart to whatever pattern you seek. But you can get some crazy accurate results. And that's the challenge that I love about hand pouring. So I'm thinking something pretty much just like that. So that's kind of what we're gonna do. You know, again, just hand pouring it in there. You know, you could do a couple things to make that a little easier on yourself in terms of, that's like way off. You know, in terms of like maybe using the drizzle spoons. Yeah, see, that's not good. We don't want that. But, you know, just kind of get it in there where you think it ought to go. That's the cool thing about hand pouring. You know, you can do things consistently, but there's always a little bit of variation, you know, because it's all done by hand. Which means there's always a little bit of variation, but I think that right there is sort of on the right track. If we just kind of look at that, you know, you can see the color profiles are starting to really line up. All right, got them all done. One thing I was thinking, is it just me, or does this color kind of look a little Halloweenish right now? It just makes me think of Halloween. I don't know. All right, a little chartreuse love time. So that's 7 drops of dead on chartreuse. Looking good. And you know, again, this is going to kind of be blended in with some of these other colors, which will change it. So it won't look quite as bright and highlight once it's, you know, in the mold and the bait is finished. But even with that said, I am going to slightly cut it with just like a smidge of watermelon. And just see if that just kind of takes the edge off. Yeah, barely. Okay. Yeah, so we might do one more drop of this watermelon. Okay. You know, again, you know, we're just working in very, very small adjustments here. Kind of little micro adjustments. And then a little bit more of the chartreuse just to get our saturation up. And again, you know, I want to put in the flakes. So, working in smidges today, ladies and gentlemen. That is hand pouring, is smidges. Little tiny things make such a difference at kind of this level of hand pouring. And that's just what makes it so difficult for me. Maybe some people find this easy. I find it very difficult. Alright, and then a little bit of this silver. Get the spoon kind of cleaned off. Alrighty. Yeah, so we went ahead and did the first two. And essentially, we are just... is that even on camera? Essentially, we're just filling in this head portion. So just get the plastic in there. Just kind of let it fill in the gaps. Wherever those gaps are, just kind of letting it run and fill in. Just like that. That is the final step in the skin layer process. So, here we go. One more. Show y'all one more. This is the easiest part. Just filling in that last little step. So there it is. There is how we are going to build the pattern in its entirety. Alright, well, the neighbor just cranked up his lawnmower, so we've got a lot of sound, so I'm going to have to leave y'all here. But this is the full skin layers. So, looking good. I think we have encompassed the color as a whole pretty well, I think. So, yeah, just kind of look at that, and then there's sort of the target. So I think that right there will look pretty exciting, and I'll meet y'all back whenever we are ready to pour the bodies and go ahead and fill these things out, and then see if they came out. You know, it's a lot of work, and you never really know what's going to happen. That's the cool thing about hand pouring. It's very, very unforgiving. You know, it might look good now, but you don't know what you're going to get till you pull it out of the mold, and there are no start overs. You can't just wipe it away and get out the airbrush and do it all over again. You know, you're stuck with what you get. It's very, very unforgiving, which to me adds to some of the challenge. So we're just going to do a real kind of see-through white pearl. This is not overly saturated. Okay. Don't want to get it too thick there. And kind of just above the top of that little hook slot insert on up into the tail just a little bit. Perfect. Just like that. The molds are sitting at about 200 degrees on the hot plate, and they are pretty dang hot, if I do say so myself. So, nice little pearl white bellies. Most fish, when you look at them, the underside, the belly, is usually pretty much straight white. So whenever I am trying to duplicate a fish pattern, a lot of times I will pour a white pearl belly underneath my skin layers. And that also helps bring out the colors in your skin layers, because now they have a white backing behind them, so to speak. Alright, now we're going to top them off with a smoked black. And once we take these out, I'll kind of tell y'all why I chose smoked black. I like the way that it blends the colors vertically. And I'll just kind of have to show you what I mean by that once these are done. It just kind of helps tie everything in, sort of blending your layers from dark to that white pearl belly. The whole thing is a pattern. So vertically and horizontally, the pattern has to be taken into consideration in the way that you pour it and the colors that you choose. You're playing 3D chess with your molds. So fun stuff. Again, just topping these off. And then we are done. Then we get to wait for these to cool down. So that's it. That is the last step. Alright, the molds are topped off, and the molds are hot enough that if I spit on them or throw a drop of water on them, it boils off, which lets me know that those molds have reached the full temperature that I need to bond everything well. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the hot plate off and then let these cool down completely uninterrupted. Probably take a good 30-40 minutes I'm really going to let them cool slowly. That way we don't have that crease in the, or that valley in the top. There are the leftover pucks. That is essentially the recipe right there. So, you know, it's just cool. That right there, when applied to these molds, can create something beautiful. So I'm always curious to see how these things turn out, and I think the molds are just about done. All right, the molds are cooled down. Let's do a little drum roll reveal and see if these are worth a crap. Here we go. Dun 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 dun. All right. Already kind of got it loosened up, so it should just peel right up. Oh yeah. Yeah, check it out. Pretty cool. I tell you, the purple is spot on. However, I think I poured a little bit too much orange. I should have poured a thinner orange line at the bottom, because it seems to kind of creep up a little bit too far. But the green chartreuse in the head and the stripes and the purple, to me, looks really, really, really great. And so I think if I had poured a little bit less orange, you would see more purple. So let's get out the picture example, and you'll just kind of see that the purple is much more, I guess, pronounced, right? I don't know, that's really close. It's just, it's hard. You know, these are completely different shapes, of course. So the way that he was able to fit the color in there is going to be a little different than here. But, you know, I mentioned earlier the reason why I went with a smoked charcoal top, and that's so it would darken the purple on the top, and you would see a dark top kind of fading into the purple, fading into the orange. That way we go from dark all the way down to light, where the white is. So the whole thing kind of blends that way and blends this way. So, I don't know. To me, that's a hand pouring success. The only thing I do differently is a little bit less orange. But in terms of just matching the color profile, that ain't bad. Yeah, there they are. Check them out. I am extremely happy with the consistency between each one. Yeah, you know, I kind of did a little bit too much orange. Yeah. Nothing's ever perfect, but the consistency between each pour, I mean, they look like carbon copies, even though, you know, you saw the process. It's all done by hand, just poured in there. So I'm really, really happy with my consistency there. Yeah, what else can I say? And I do think this eyeball is going to be smoking on those. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, there it is. There it is. With the eyeballs on. Looking good, looking good. Super happy with these. Just sent a picture to one of my buddies. He approves. Old live wire plastics. Yeah, got the other ones chilling there. What do y'all think? How did we do? Please leave me some comments down below. And definitely be on the lookout for these on Instagram. I'll probably offer them for sale in the next few days. And definitely give the original artist of this color a shout out. For sure. Sorry, not a shout out. A follow. Again, the author of this color, Dark Corner Custom Crankbaits. Alright, one last little glamour shot. Looking good, looking good. Look at that. Oh man, I'm proud of these, y'all. This was a challenge, a fun challenge, and man, that's what it's all about. All right, that's gonna wrap this one up. We are gonna celebrate a successful pour with some German beer. After all, it is October. This is Hofbrau Oktoberfest. Prost, everybody. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope you found it entertaining and maybe even got some ideas for your own pouring at home. You know, it's good to draw inspiration from a lot of places, and one of those places that I draw from are airbrush patterns, crankbaits, wooden baits, things like that, even other airbrush soft plastics. So, you know, if you're ever really wanting a challenge, look at what's being done with other types of lure making and try to incorporate that into your soft plastic bait making. That's what I've done with a lot of my layered pours. That's where I kind of got the idea from. And it's just such a fun challenge. You know, there's so many talented bait makers right now in the soft plastic space. You know, I would love to see a couple of guys do this pattern using some of their methods and techniques, you know, capsuling, dusting, powder, even adding paint by hand, even adding flake by hand. You know, there's so many ways to skin the cat, and it would be fun to see them all. But anyway, we're out of here, and like, subscribe, hit the notification bell.